estimates of the dollar value of revenue that was going to be generated by both renewal and replacement. So the cover sheet of what I gave you kind of summarizes what we're doing today. So keep in mind, I'll roll back in the Wayback Machine, just a few moments. Recall, for those of you that were in county government, and many of you may not have been, Robert was, he's like the old man here, no offense. I think you're actually my age. I doubt it. But in 2013, Kasich administration, the law was changed to say that any levies that had quote-unquote new money would not be subject to the rollback. And at that point in time, the Department of Taxation was compelled to have to delineate between new money levies and not new money levies. So you're starting at the top of this page. Your 2011 levy, as you can tell, was prior to September of 2013. So that levy has only been renewed, so that's why to the right of there I have the words qualifying levy written in. What that means, what it qualifies for are the rollbacks, which is code for credit. So the 2.5 owner occupancy credit and the 10% non-business credit. That levy, the taxpayers for that levy are allowed to receive and qualify for that 12.5% credit on the tax bill. So for example, on a 1 mil levy on $100,000 of value, $35 is the amount of tax. Well, take off 12.5%, and that's what those rollbacks indicate. So that the taxpayer is only paying 87.5%, and the state of Ohio is reimbursing the township for the remaining 12.5%. The next levy was passed way after 2013, and it was only 2021. It's a 2021 levy, also for the same amount, if you recall, 2.9. And its current effective rate is 2.28 mils. It is a non-qualifying levy because, as I just said, it was passed after September of 2013, which means that it's considered quote-unquote new money, and so it does not allow the taxpayer to experience the benefit of those two credits. So of a $35 1 mil levy, the taxpayer pays the whole $35. They don't get any credits. But the Department of Taxation keeps them separate. From your perspective, and on a ballot, it will still show 5.8 mils, one levy. But from my perspective, and what I do in my office, it separates them. So I know how much of that 5.8 is actually qualifying for the rollbacks, and how much of the 5.8 is not qualifying for the rollbacks, just for this kind of discussion. So having said that, the total effective rate, Class 1, Res and Ag, is 3.916803 mils of a 5.8 voted levy. So the renewal of that levy, 100% revenue, is $3.5 million as you scroll down that cover page. I'm going to certify 95%. I'm a pretty conservative girl. Delinquency collection rate last year countywide was around 3%. I won't do 5. I don't want you to appropriate monies that may not come. So if the money comes in, Robert will find out, and you can appropriate that money later. 95% of that 100% revenue is $3.3 million. So that's what I would certify on a renewal levy, is 3.3, and that's this section here. Correct, Violet. Oh no, that's not my sheet. My sheet.
Yeah.
This.
Gotcha.
Did I not give you one?
No, I
Oh
stepped
my
away.
gosh.
No, I'm sorry, I stepped away. It was my fault. I had
Okay.
to go turn
I
the
don't.
sheet.
There may be some handwritten stuff in there.
No reason to
Andrew,
fuss.
can I ask a
Yes, please. Very good.
question? There's two separate levies. Do those get voted on at the same time?
No. Yes, I said that. They get rolled at the back. The voter sees 5.8 on their ballot.
So they don't see the separation?
No, it's a 5. It was a 2.8 with a 2.8 mil increase back in 2021. So from the voter's perspective, it's one levy. But because part of it qualifies for the rollbacks and part of it doesn't, this is the way the Department of Taxation, in their infinite wisdom, and that sounds sarcastic. I'm not being sarcastic. I don't know how I would have done it differently, but it's confusing no matter how you look at it. It's truly a 5.8 mil levy. It's just I have to keep track of it because part of it your voters get the rollbacks, and part of it your voters
But
don't.
the voters won't be confused by seeing two separate levies.
They will be confused, so leave it at 5.8. It's a 5.8 mil levy is what it is, fire levy. It's just divided into two 2.9s in order to discuss and realize how much of that qualifies for the rollbacks. Either way, 3.91 is the current effective rate. As I said, a renewal will generate about just under $3.4 million. If you were to replace that, keep in mind that a replacement levy has nothing to do with value. It has everything to do with the voted rate. So the voted rate on these levies is 2.8, 2.9 for a total of 5.8. So 5.8 is the voted millage for this fire effort. So if you would replace this levy, you're going to go back to the ballot, and your voters are gonna see a 5.8 mil replacement, that would generate 100% of 5.2 million. And the certified amount is just under 5 million, 4.9, which is 95%. So I would certify the 95%. So you'd be generating just under 5 million if you replace this levy and start it over at 5.8 mils instead of the current effective rate of 3.91. Yes.
Just to further clarify then, the state will match that and bring it back up to that amount with the rollbacks, correct?
No, there's nothing you said that's just true. No, the state has no involvement in this at all. This is a replacement levy, is considered new money, and there are no rollbacks in any
No,
of it.
but I mean, the first renewal levy,
The qual, where it says
3.6,
qualifying,
yes.
yes, if you only renew these levies, then the first, the one that's the older of the two, the taxpayer will see the rollbacks on the 2.9 part that was effective 2011. The part that was effective 2021, they haven't been getting rollbacks on it since it was voted, because it was new money in 2021.
my question, I guess I should clarify my question. Do the rollbacks come back to the township?
If you, oh, absolutely. Yeah, he gets two checks.
That's
He
what I
gets
thought.
one from me and one from the state, every single settlement.
So in other words, you're saying we'll get 3.4 million from you and then an additional 1.8 million from the state?
No, that's not what I said. No, no. Sorry, I know it's confusing.
And that's 100% replacement, the 5.8%.
To renew, this is the current effective rate for this 5.8 mils. 1.63 of it is qualifying, 2.28 of it is not. So if you renew this whole amount, this portion of that amount will see rollbacks to the taxpayer. This point of it, they pay the whole nut. They don't get any of the rollbacks. So the 3 point, and that's the way it's been that way since 2021 when this levy was passed. Only the 1.63 of the 2.9 qualifies for the rollbacks. The remaining 2.28 does not qualify, and that's the way it is today.
Right, but I guess my question is, what's the net back to the township on the renewal?
Well, you'd have to take the, well, they get the full millage rate. Again, the taxpayer pays the 87.5%, and the other 12.5% comes from the state right now for this levy. But the taxpayers pay the full nut on this levy.
So that's what we'd be getting back, that includes in.
Yes, oh yes. Robert just gets two checks. One comes from me, where the taxpayers pay their bills to the county treasurer, and then I settle that money. I distribute it according to the levies that are in force. But the rollbacks actually come from Department of Taxation. They used to come from us, now they come directly to you, do they not? Yeah, they come directly from DTE, directly to him. So he gets two checks. The township gets made whole no matter what. Wherever there's a credit like that, whether it's homestead or the 2.5 or 10, the township gets the full amount. It's just the taxpayer doesn't pay the full amount. They pay the reduced amount, 87.5%, on the levies that are older than September of 2015. If there's any quote-unquote new money after September of 13, and that could be a replacement levy, a renewal with an increase, the increased portion, or a brand new additional levy, like the Board of DD just had for this year, that's a brand new levy, that's considered new money, and the rollbacks don't apply to any of that. The taxpayer pays the whole $35 on a 1 mil levy, for example. So if you replace it, like I said, the next line down, the 100% is 5.2 million, and the certified is just under 5 million, is 4.9 at 95%. Questions on that beyond what we've already done? What Robert had asked me about a couple days ago was if you would replace the 10 mil continuing. Now keep in mind, that continuing levy was passed in 1992. So many, many moons ago. I have a daughter that was born in 1992. All right, so the whole levy is qualifying because it was passed way before September of 2013. The current class 1, again, class 1, gold star if you know, res and ag is class 1. Class 2 is commercial industrial. And then the public utility personal property they always pay the full voted rate. So you can see there I've listed the current class 1 effective rate for that levy is 2.237 mils. The current class 2 effective rate is 1.765. And again, the current PUP rate is 10. So whatever public utility valuation you have in the township, they pay the voted rate every single time. So if you would replace that levy, start over, the effects are twofold. One is you get a significantly increased amount of revenue on that levy because you're taking the current effective rate from 2.2 up to 10 because that was the voted rate. You'll bring in $9 million. Now I'm going to certify 8.5 of that. That means, go down further in the page, to allow the full 5.8 to be collected, the amount of revenue lost, which would be the renewal of the 5.8 that you currently have of 3.5. But the net increase of the 10 mils successfully replaced at 100% and the 5.8 stops collecting is about 5.5 million. Does that make sense? My dad would have said clear as mud. Does that make sense? So you would definitely see an increase. It would be essentially a 6 mil increase on a continuing basis. Keep in mind, continuing levies, you have the authority within Ohio law to do stuff with continuing levies. You can do what you're advocating here. You could replace and decrease. Instead of 10 mils, you could decrease it to something less than that. And if it fails at the ballot, the continuing continues. That was rather redundant. It doesn't affect the efficacy, the effectiveness of the current 10 mil levy. It would continue on at its current collection rate, even if your effort would fail. But you don't have to replace the whole 10 mil. You could, and that's what I listed here. I did not do any other scenarios. You didn't ask for anything else, but this gives you a rough guide that if you would decide to replace the 10 mil levy, but reduce it to something less than 10 mil, then you would collect less, but again, you'd be at a higher effective collective rate than what you currently are at the 3.9, more than likely. Does that make sense? And I'm happy to give you any other numbers that you'd like to have. Yes?
How does this impact the average taxpayer for the property?
Well, the last sentence I have there, this is essentially a 6 mil increase. So 100,000 of value times 35% is 35,000 times 0.006. That shows you what they would see on 100,000 of value. Because you'd be basically collecting 10 mils new, but not collecting 3.9 mils on existing levies. So you'd be netting out to the taxpayer. They would be paying new on 10, but that we would make go away, and I will tell you how to do that. It's very easy to do. To stop collecting, or actually let this expire, that's what you've got here, 0.006, $210 per 100,000 of value. It's a net increase of 6 mils to generate essentially $5.5 million. Because if you would fully stop collecting the 5.8, and that was initially what Robert asked me, there are a whole myriad of choices here. You can replace the 10 mil and reduce it to 9 mil or 8 mil or 7 mil. As I say to other townships, and I said it to Robert a million times, is how much do you need? It's easier, instead of taking really a dart and throwing it at a dartboard, it's easier to say, it's easier for me to give you an accurate calculation if you tell me what you think your revenue needs are based on your expenses, and I can back into the millage. You know, and then how you're going to do that millage, whether you replace the existing levies or whether you let them expire and replace the continuing levy. You know, how you do it is really up to you. The millage that you need is easier for me to tell you when you tell me what you think those financial needs are going to be. Does that make sense? Rather than just kind of, you know, kind of spitballing here. But you can see, again, this cover sheet is just designed to answer the questions of renew, replace the existing 5.8, and then if you would replace the 10, what it would make. Now, if you would keep collecting the 5.8, then you would have an additional, oh my goodness, about $12 million you'd have. Because you would be starting over at the 10, and you would continue on. If you would replace the 5.8, you would have certified 3.3 plus the additional for the 10. I don't know how much you need. You guys have to discuss that, what your budget looks like. The continuing is continuing. It's redundant, I know, but it's ongoing. Whereas the 5.8, as you know, 5.8, as you know, expires with tax year 25. The first time you can go on the ballot for the 5.8 is November of this year. So you've got, it's good that you're starting now. Kudos. I appreciate the early start. It gives you time to think about it and, you know, ruminate on the choices and how much you think, as well as the timing of it. Keeping in mind, you've got people here who have done the ballot many, many times. This November it's an off year from the standpoint of large elections. This is an odd calendar year, so who's on the ballot? Who's on the ballot in November? The fiscal officer is? I don't recall. And so you're on the ballot in November?
2 trustees.
So it's got a fiscal officer and a trustee on the ballot in November?
2 trustees.
2 trustees? Is it you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have so fiscal officers potentially and township trustees, as well as city and village council. So there are no state level offices, no other county, I'm on the ballot next year, and Dave Lawrence, the county commissioner, is on next year. Next year is also all the state offices. So governor, attorney general, secretary of state, all of those. So just keep in mind that election season, as you think about maybe voter turnout or other issues. I don't know of any, there are a number of, like 4, maybe 3 other township levies that expire, 2 that expired, including the village of Richwood, that expire in tax year 24. So they need to pass something by November of 25 to continue the revenue. But right now, no one has talked to me about a November effort. All I know is that Marysville Schools is on the ballot in May. I don't have any other levies I know about in November yet. It's too early. The filing deadline's not until August the, oh golly, like the 7th of August. I put that in the letter that's in your packet. I do that letter every year and send it out to all the districts to let them know. August the 6th. August the 6th is the filing deadline for the November 4th levy. So you definitely have time to decide what you're going to do with this. I don't need to have my stuff until, and I'm going to be out of the country for a little bit of time, the middle of July. So please, let's do this before then. So my part doesn't take very long, but I would rather not be panicked and have you be panicked. I'd rather have it done before I leave. So, yes, Barry.
If the levy should go on the November ballot and it does not pass, then we have another opportunity
Yes.
in May and also in November.
Yes. Yeah, keep in mind, the tax year, the current 5.8 mil levy expires with tax year 25. That means collection 26 still goes on. So you can still pass it, your first effort of passing in 25, you still have revenue that continues in 26. So it will only be if it fails in May of 26, actually, yeah, May of 26, November of 26, before the revenue would end, if in fact it's not a positive outcome on either of those two. You have 3 attempts at the ballot. The first one is the calendar year of the tax year that expires. So you have the first, as I said, November of 25 is the first time you go to the ballot. And then you have May and November, so you have time. And as I said a moment ago, the continuing levy is the same. So if you have an effort with your continuing levy and that effort fails, the continuing continues. It doesn't stop continuing just because you had an effort to change it that failed at the ballot. So that's the beauty. I actually got confirmation of that today from legal counsel, because I wasn't sure.
And then I don't see the number for what does the continuing levy bring us in terms of income?
Oh, right now, if you read, I didn't put that on there.
So Barry,
Not much.
Barry, if you want to go to your last sheet of the packet that I gave you.
Oh, you may have passed something out.
Okay,
I could pull it up on my iPad, but I didn't bring that general sheet. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
So the top section there shows you what we're going to be collecting in
Yep, right there.
2025
2.3 million.
from the 4 levies, 3 levies, one of which is split apart. I highlighted in yellow there what the 2.9 are expected to bring in. These are at 100%,
Yep.
not the 95%.
Right.
So that's why a slight difference there.
So about 6.5 million, 100% is what all of the 2 continuing and the 2 fire levies that you've got are bringing in for fire-specific purposes.
So in option 1 there, the renewal of both of those, in your little yellow box there, you could write $3.5 million, which is the number that Andrea gave you. Option 2, the replace, is $5.2 million, or essentially a $1.7 million increase. And then the 10 is $9 million. Now, the 10 ended up being much more than I had anticipated, but it gives you an option, as she mentioned, of a replace the 10 mil with a reduction, but still get more revenue. As Andrea mentioned,
and it wouldn't expire in 5 years.
Correct.
It would, which is what you just found out today.
correct. So we wouldn't have to jump through these hoops every 5 years. Now, what we learned the hard way was even if you have a continual, it does make sense to replace those in regular intervals so we don't wind up in the situation where we're at, where you're collecting pennies on the effective rate.
Well, 92 was 32 years ago, so
Yeah.
it's been a while since that levy was passed.
Yes.
And given the nature of property values and fixed rate levies, as the value goes up, the rate goes down, new construction notwithstanding. So it stands to reason that levy, which was probably significant at the time,
Yes.
is collecting it at just a small percentage of what it was planned to collect at the time.
In addition to working backwards of what revenue you need, you also have to worry about what the ballot is going to say. So, replacing a 10 mil with a reduction to a 6 mil sounds like it's a reduction, but it actually increases your taxes.
Yeah, I would say, word to the wise is I would have a fair amount of public meetings. I would really work to educate your voter, to make sure they know that while you're replacing this large mill levy, you are also allowing to expire potentially.
Yes.
I'm not making decisions for you, but you're potentially allowing to expire other levies that are currently in force, so that there would be a net effect. But yeah, I would make sure you, the whole county is very intelligent when it comes to levies, and that's awesome, intelligent voters, but I would make sure that you take the time to educate them as to what your intents are. And I'm happy to help anybody I can in that regard.
So I'm sure the fire department will talk about need, but one thing I did want to bring up is, I know that we received some confirmation of support for the renewal, but my hesitancy of just renewal is if you want to maintain what you have now, and that's all you want to do, then you do a renewal. If you're not looking at growth, if you're not looking at expansion, that is the way to go. But you're not going to cover any growth or expansion, other than new construction, but we're seeing a lot of abatements, we're seeing a lot of TIFs, where that's not really resulting in revenue in the fire division's coffers.
There had been some mention of having additional special levy if we wanted to do something like a new fire station. How would that work?
You could do a bond levy, so that it would be another factor in this of, okay, we only need to renew the 5.8 to maintain operations, but at the same time, either this November or May or next November, we're going to run a bond levy for the reconstruction of Station 210.
It's a horse of a different color theory. It's a whole different thing. It's a fixed rate levy, fixed sum levy, and it means it will only collect that amount of money. There's no effect, the effective rate actually changes based on the debt service. So whatever, you figure, used to be when you had a coupon book for your car payments, you tear out the coupon, 12 months is one whole year of coupons. That's ultimately the rate that I will certify every year for a bond levy. Whatever your debt service is all that you collect.
And how long would a bond live?
It depends on what you decide. How long is
15
it?
years.
10, 15, 30, some are at schools are 30, some are 35. It depends on how long you want to pay off that note, the financing to build.
I'm just wondering the impact then on the taxpayer would be spread out over.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, they're rarely ever short term because they're usually significant amounts of money. But yeah, that is the only rate that I personally set every year are the fixed sum levies. That would be for the school districts, those are emergency levies. They only can connect, for example, North Union has a $210,000 fixed sum levy that was passed years ago, long before I became auditor. So it can only collect $210,000. Now, given the delinquency rate of Union County, I usually certify slightly over that so that I can make sure that North Union schools can make their debt payments. So they usually collect a little over $10,000. And if at the end of the 30-year bond or at the end of that 10-year fixed emergency levy term, if they have a little bit left over, they have to go to the common pleas court to decide what they're going to do with that money. But I would rather have my school districts be able to make their debt payments than have them be short because of some delinquency in the county. But it's designed to collect, and it collects really close to exactly what their coupon payment, if you will, and the analogy I gave a moment ago, it actually would come out to. And that actually, I set that every year for all the fixed sum levies. I personally do those. looking at what the valuation is for the district, what is their debt service, one divided into the other tells me exactly what the millage needs to be. It's a little bit different than what we're talking about between what Robert and I prepared. Yeah.
What's Jerome's current valuation?
I'll tell you, it's on that handout I gave you. That's the green bar. Green bar, this is not
It's
an
really
old
small.
system, it's only green bar because we're underneath green bar. 901 is what on the far right-hand side of that document over here. That is the total value for the three property classes, class 1, class 2, and class 3, which is public utility personal property. 901, 213, 240, to really blow your doors off, that is the 35% value.
Wow.
This
Wow.
report is called the auditor's estimate, and when I asked the vendor to make this years ago when I took office, I said, that makes one less calculation for me. I use this report every single day. And so if I can look at these top numbers, the valuation number, again, it's on the far right-hand side, is the total of the three categories of value. If it can tell me what it is times 35%, and that's what this number is, then that's one calculation I don't have to do. And so, yeah, so you want to know what the 100% market value is, stick a sign on the yard, try to sell it?
2.57
Bingo, billion
Wow.
for Jerome Township. And the districts, Joe, are on the far left-hand side of this report. So I know these districts by numbers, 14, 15, and 17. Look at the far left-hand side. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that tells you the description of that district. So 14 is Jerome Fairbanks, 15 is Jerome Jonathan Alder, and 17 is Jerome Dublin. And then if you follow those lines over, you can see how much value and then how much revenue by levy, and each page is its own levy. I didn't give you the full tax district. I only gave you the 2.9 mil, 2 pages of those levies. But if every single one of your levies has its own page in this report, and it's on my website. If you go to the auditor section of the website and go to real estate, you can see there's several ways to get to this report. You can see every page, as I said, which has every levy has its own page. The valuation number is the same, but the levy number and how much revenue is generated by that levy is different on each page. But either way, you can see how much value is being tapped for taxation in District 14, both in Class 1, Class 2, and public utility, and then for 15 and 17 as well. So thankfully, you're not like Darby, no offense, but Darby has 5 tax districts, and only 2 of them tax the whole Pleasant Valley. I mean, it's so mixed up. When I do calculations for them, I have to say, what district am I in? Because 18, which is Plain City, doesn't pay. You know, it's different. You've got to be very careful as who's being taxed and who isn't based on where they're located. But for Jerome, all 3 of your tax districts are paying into your fire levy. So 14, 15, and 17. And you can see the districts listed over here with their description and then their value, as well as how much for this particular levy that value is generating in revenue.
In 2021, if my memory serves me correct, like 1 mil would have collected $350, and $350.
I mean,
That would be 1 billion in tax base.
maybe.
Because that's what I remember was 1 billion. So I was like, so we're at 2 point from 21
Well,
until now, maybe.
You know,
2
1 mil against 100,000 value is 35,000. That's 1.001 is $35. So you can safely say that 1 mil will generate $35 in revenue per 100,000 value, regardless of anything else. That's just a flat computation. I don't know what it was in 2021. I have this report on my desk for 2021.
Okay.
I can go look, and I can send it to you tomorrow if you're interested.
Just for perspective. For me,
Those
that's-
are
I
ancient
thought that was-
history numbers now.
Yeah.
So much has changed, but I'm happy to, again, you know what, I take that back. I'm still happy to help you, but I think it's on my website. I think that information, let me look real quick, is on the website. If you go to the unioncounty.ohio.gov and under officials, which is the first tab, and go to real estate, which is the bottom section of my section of the tax of the holdout sections, there is a section called real estate section. And I have this little iPad. It's not a big screen, but there's all these choices under that real estate section. And if you go to the county valuation 10-year history, which is the top one, you'll see these reports that this comes from, that the green bar line comes from, and you can tap on 2021 tax year and see what you're asking. So, I mean, I'm happy to dissect and interpret any questions you have, but you'll be able to look. And because we've had no new tax districts since then, we will have more next year, by the way, because of Twin Cities and their annexations. This levy is on page, what I gave you is on page 134. So if you go to 21, go around 134, 135, you're going to find Jerome Township's levies, about that same section of the report. I don't know if it's exactly correct, but somewhere around 134, 133, you have your inside millage, road and bridge, and then the five fire levies. So you've got like 7 pages that belong to Jerome Township in that report. So go take a look.
All right. Andrea, thanks. I forgot, I'd written a line I wanted to say right before Andrea started talking, and it says, levies can be confusing.
Yes.
I wanted to prepare everybody and the public that may be watching about the confusion.
I have one other.
Yeah, very.
I know you're going through a bunch of reappraisals and.
Countywide, 125, payable in 26.
And how will those affect the valuations and ultimately?
Oh, it's a really good question. So if you decide to go to the ballot in this November, keep in mind, what did I say, the filing deadline is August 6th? Okay, well, the county values, I get the certification for the county values usually around the week before Thanksgiving every year. Because even though 2025, tax year 2025, calendar year 2025, is not an update year for Union County, values change every year. It may not be a county-wide update, because that's only once every 3 years, but there's all the new construction, which you guys have much. There are some destroyed buildings. Every year, people are taking down value. And there's also board of revision complaints that change value, usually in class 2, which is commercial industrial. That's where the largest value impact is. So even though we're not doing a countywide update in this tax year, I'm in tax year 24 right now, we're like looking past. I have an abstract, which is a rolling up or a culmination of all 44 tax districts, a big report that I have to submit to the state every single year, even if it's not an update year, that captures all of those changes, most of which are new construction. So I submit that to them. So back up to your question. If the filing deadline is August the 6th of this year, 2025, for a November 5, like I said, November 5 ballot, November 4 ballot, I'm still going to have 2024 values on August the 6th of this year. I'm not going to have tax year 2025 values until around the 15th of November of this year. So I will certify your levy, whatever you decide to do, using the numbers that are on this green bar paper I gave you. Okay, so that valuation number in the far right-hand side is the number I'm going to use, because that is all that's certified as of August the 6th. Having said that, I will be submitting the new abstract. I'll have to have it submitted. The tentative will go out about, middle of August. We'll have it for, which reminds me, I want to come here and use this hall if possible again for informal meetings. I'll discuss that with you. We would like to have meetings with taxpayers on this end of the county. So I'll let you know if we can kind of come and swat for a couple of days. We've done it in the past. Either way, we'll do those. Sorry, squirrel. We'll do that long about mid-September. And then I will submit that abstract with whatever changes we have for calendar year 25 to be included in the tax year 25 abstract long about Halloween. They'll get submitted around 10/31. And we'll hear back from the corporate taxation before Thanksgiving. So if those values increase, guaranteed they will increase. Absolutely, values are going to increase. If they when they do, whatever is passed at the November 4 election will be applied to those values and not to what I certify. That makes sense? I have to certify whatever you want to go to the ballot to do based on the certified values at that time. Well, as of August the 6th, these are the values that I have. These are the current values right now.
So what I hear you saying is if the values go up, we could potentially net more money.
Yes, you could, but largely within, especially if there's replacement and new money asked for. So with the fixed rate levies, you're going to collect about the same. With the replacement, where you're asking for new money, absolutely, you're going to collect more money because you have a bigger tax base. You're going to have more value from which to draw.
But the renewals aren't affected as much by the.
The renewals not going to be affected as much. Inside millage, you're going to definitely have more revenue on your road and bridge and your other.
Won't we be subject to an initial effective rate
Maybe.
decrease?
Maybe. That's too confusing for this whole audience. You need to follow the conversation for later. Maybe. some, gosh, this is way too much, it's really too much for him to write. There is an effect on tax rates if the values change, that you may vote in a new 10 mil levy, and it actually comes in slightly less than that based on how the values change. But for all intents and purposes, if you would replace this 10 mil levy at 10 mils, it's going to collect at about 10 mils. I don't want to convolute the scenario any more than that. And that, I'm not being dishonest with you, that's truly what it's going to collect at.
Robert, could you discuss, when you do your projections, how growth has affected the township? And how you have to calculate that into what might come in?
Yeah, so I gave each of you, as part of your packet, the last 3 years' actual current year budget, and then a 10-year forecast for both the fire district fund and the EMS fund. So that'll kind of show you, over to the right, I don't think it's printed on there though, I do a 1 year, 5 year, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year average. With the callbacks that we've had to incur, they've skewed the numbers. So right now, that shows an 8% growth in the fire district fund.
If those tips get passed, you're going to have more.
Yes.
More
I'm
clawback
still
and
waiting.
more money.
And more clawbacks.
More callbacks.
I don't know if side note, my last accurate assessment, which was printed a couple of weeks ago, talked about clawbacks and tips. It's something that I care deeply about because I think it unfairly hurts the local levying agencies that are doing nothing but supporting the development that is happening in all these areas. But I just encourage you, as a township, as the fastest growing township in Union County, that as you embrace these economic development tools, please file the documents in a timely fashion. File them with my office. If you pass a resolution today to create a TIF, I want to see that 24 tomorrow. Give me the documents quickly. The sooner we file them, the sooner they'll get the part taxation, and the less likely that there'll be a clawback that Robert just referred to. Because right now, just like with Jordan Grand, the clawback 3 years of tax revenue from you. I mean, your fire levy got clawed back. All the road levies got clawed back. Board DD, Health Department, 911, all the schools, JVS, all of them had to give up money out of their current budgets to put money into the TIF fund. Whereas if they had happened at the same time, then those monies would have been diverted from the get-go and there never would have been a clawback. It isn't to say that the TIF won't get funded, it's just from where is it getting pulled money when it's decided so far many years after it's already been approved. So it just pays, those economic development tools are awesome, and I know they have merit. I'm not disparaging them in any way, shape, or form. I just encourage the local governments that are using them to use them and file paperwork in a timely fashion, so the clawbacks don't happen.
So looking at those budgets and forecasts, I would say that they're fairly conservative in approach. It does not provide for any additional staffing than what was already approved in 2024 for 2025. We've all seen the huge increase in healthcare costs in our insurance for that. We've also seen a huge increase in equipment. You know, just a few years ago when we budgeted for an engine, it was about $525,000. We know we just paid $955,000 for a demo model, not a spec model. So that kind of tells you what kind of increases we're seeing in the equipment side of funding the fire division.
Thank you, Robert. Andrea, thank you for coming down.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to help. If you have any other questions or what we're going to run any other scenarios as you discuss and try to figure out what's best, you know how to reach me. I'm happy to help any way I can. Also, if you decide to have public meetings and you have any kind of documentation you want to put together, let me proof it.
Oh, before we do a mailer?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Please let me look it over. I don't have a lot of answers, but I have answers on that stuff, so I would appreciate the opportunity to just look it over. But I'm happy to help any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the chief and the fire department put together a packet for us here. I would envision that we'll probably like maybe continue this special meeting, or we could schedule another special meeting in the future also, in case maybe we don't get to go through everything that's in the packet here.
Thank you.
Stay warm, Andrea. Thank you
Thank
again.
you so much. See you, Chief.
See you. First, thank you for really getting ahead of the game. Typically, we wait until June, July to really make a decision on the fire levy. So this is fantastic.
No decisions tonight, everybody. Just this is like informational. Collect all the facts, discuss.
Yep.
Maybe discuss it.
So in your packet, I just wanted to highlight a lot of the accomplishments that the fire division has done over the last 5 years. That includes design construction station 211, staffing that station, get the SAFER grant, hire 9 of the personnel that covered the salaries and benefits for 3 years, passing the fire levy the last time to really fund those positions and keep those firefighters on the job. Reduce our response times. We have maintained our fiscal responsibility to the residents and allowed our department to grow and really set a really good trajectory forward as we continue to serve the residents. Reduce the ISO rating. We were a 5. Now we are a 3. We continue to work on that so we can bring that down as low as we possibly can. Training, public education. And these are just a few of the highlights, and I know we're up against some time, but the new equipment that we're getting. 2 things I want to highlight. Station 211 was funded through the community authority with Grove Village. That was no tax levies were used to fund that fire station. The same with the ladder truck. We used ARPA funds and the community authority money. So the levies do not cover any of those costs. There was $6.6 million, I believe, or $6.5 million that was all funded through the community authority, and that is fantastic. There's nothing, we would have never been able to do that with our tax levies and the 2.9 plus the old levies. So that is huge, and we're already seeing the benefits of that station. Reduced response times in that area, and obviously it did help reduce our ISO rating, which that gets passed on to all of our taxpayers, commercial especially, and then our residential, and that's up to their insurance companies to provide that. The services that we provide to the community, advanced life support, we're responding to more and more EMS runs every year, fire suppression, hazardous materials response, and then different types of rescues that we do, water and ice rescue, vehicle rescue, grain rescue, rope rescue, and obviously the trench and confined space. All these that we are training the personnel to have that capability and grow that ability to have that for our community. Community safety education. We now have 2 people, Brad and Chris, in our community safety division. They're doing a phenomenal job, not only with community education, but getting out doing the construction inspections and then just doing regular business inspections. Part of that, we implemented fees in 23, late 23, last 3 months. Last year, I believe we collected over $125,000 in fees, and that is just construction inspections, tank inspections, things like that. It did not go to any current business owners unless they're adding on to their business and whatnot. The regular fire inspections every year, the annual inspections are at no cost. So that's phenomenal. Our crews are out doing car seat installations. I know Mr. Adler and a lot of the other residents have utilized that. But we're also out in the public, just being out educating and just being a part of our community at Touch a Truck, at the car show, at the Ridge Fest, 5K run that is done every year during Thanksgiving morning. And then we do ride-alongs for students at Tolles, Great Medical Center, and Columbus State. They're paramedic students and EMT students come and ride with us. Some of our personnel are proctoring them and signing them off as they continue through their training. So there's a lot of different things that we do. Our firefighters are out doing toy drives and food drives every single year, which is great because we are embracing our community and they're embracing us being out there with them as well. And that would not be possible if it wasn't for our personnel. On the 3rd page of your packet, we sat down as the chiefs of the department and we set some priorities. And that was based on the needs assessment, which is the following pages after the priorities. The number one priority is obviously personnel. We want to maintain and increase the level of staffing we currently have. We're not meeting the demands that we have to have or what we need to have for a community our size and seeing the growth that we have. We need to increase our staffing levels. We want to increase additional staffing in 26, but then we want to also add a third station and staff that station. That in turn is going to help us hit priority number 2 and then obviously priority number 3. But anytime we add another station, it's going to help reduce our response times, it's going to help save lives, it's going to reduce the amount of fire damage, and it also is going to help save lives through cardiac arrest and whatnot. But it's going to reduce our ISO rating. Having that other station, having those personnel, and having that complement helps us meet NFPA standards, which I just took some bullet points out of the NFPA 1710, which identifies staffing levels for our engine and ladder companies, but it also identifies how many firefighters we need to have on a residential house fire. That number is 17 for a 2,000 square foot house. But I asked, how many 2,000 square foot houses do we build in Jerome Township? Not many. Most of them are 3, 4, 5, 6,000. We have a house that's 18,000 square feet. If that was a commercial building, we would require a sprinkler system, but it's a residential house, so fire code does not require a sprinkler system in there. So all those personnel, I can't tell you the professional development that we've done within our department. We have a development plan for every firefighter as soon as they walk in the door. If they want to be the fire chief, they have a plan and they have a roadmap to get there. Education is huge for us. We implemented degrees for all of our personnel, especially if they want to promote to lieutenant battalion and to the fire chief's level. All of this ties right back to NFPA 1710 and how we need to staff and where we need to head in the right direction. Getting that Station 210 rebuilt. It's a 32-year-old station. We are seeing it with just the generator that we have to replace. The heating system, we went about 3 weeks without heat. We finally got parts for the heaters, got that back up and running. But none of us keep our cars 10, 12 years. We rotate them out, and the station is due. It was designed for 3 or 4 people a day, and typically we have 7 or 8 plus administrative staff. We were able to put some staff up at 211 and move the sheriff deputies up to 211, so that helped ease some of the stress at 210. But again, that station needs to be rebuilt and increased in size because of the demands that we are seeing every single day within our community. Along with anything we do, we got to maintain our facilities. In the past, it's not been something that has been a focus of the township, so we have to maintain those facilities so they will last for decades to come into the next generation of firefighters. And that is huge, and we've already started working on that for Station 211 and trying to get by with Station 210, and any future station we'll be able to maintain those facilities as well. And then you've had our capital improvements budget. That is a moving target because of the cost of equipment increase. A fire truck, as Mr. Caldwell said, went from just over 500,000, now it's over $1 million. If we had to buy that truck today, it would be about 1.1 million. So we've already saved by buying the demo or the stock truck. We may not have that ability in the future. Hopefully we can. But we've got to be able to fund and maintain that capital project. As you run through from your annual report that you received last year, you saw the maps that we have. This is for 2023. It was in your 2024 annual report. But you can see the areas that you see the service demand. The first map you see is the amount of runs that we took in the 1 square mile area throughout the township, Manville Creek Township. And the highlight that I want to focus on is the area 161 and 33. That area is increasing in responses every single day. Our response times to that area, on your second page, you see our response times. We're exceeding 7 and 8 minutes, and that is travel time. That is the time it takes us from the time the wheels start rolling, so we're at the front door of that building. But that's an average. So we take 1 square, if we have 50 runs in that 1 square mile area, we can get to a run in 6 minutes, and another runs in 10. The average is going to be in the middle at 8. So it's not an exact science, but we're working to fine tune that. But our response times exceed the National Fire Protection Association standards, which is 4 minutes. As you can see, the impact, the third map you see, the impact of Station 211. The first was the first 6 months prior to us opening that fire station. And then the fourth map you see is after that fire station is open. You can see the response times continuing to come down. We've had the ability to have Raven Hill opened up all the way to 42. That has helped reduce response times, especially north and south of that intersection, and get throughout the township. So there are a lot of advantages that we've seen with Station 211 as well. And then the last section of your packet is the same information that Mr. Caldwell shared with you. It's the tax information. I wanted to give it all in your bundle so you can take this home and marinate on it for a while and then just ask us questions. We feel that the priorities are, personnel, equipment, staffing, and really getting those fire stations back up to par and then getting that third station. So I agree with Andrea and Mr. Caldwell, sometimes we have to look at the end and work our way backwards. We have needs. Those needs are never going to go away. The growth continues. We can see that with the value of the township. I want to say it was about $416,000 what we collected in 2021, Mr. Trapp, per mill. Now, we'll collect significantly more than that. It's actually doubled in just 5 years. So that's great for the township that's growing, but it's also increasing the demand on our firefighters, the demand on all emergency services across the board, not just us. So, any questions? And then I stayed under 10. That's good.
That's pretty complete. It's pretty complete.
We tried.
Sorry.
Have you discussed any numbers with Mr. Caldwell as to what these projected financial needs will be based on your priority levels?
So we were getting the numbers and evaluations from Andrea, and we're going to take those and start working backwards. So the things that we look at are obviously going to be the personnel costs, insurance. We're not sure where that's going to go, but we're hoping the insurance does come down. Personnel costs, as we add, we know where we need to be to open up a third station and where we need to be to limit cross-staffing at our current stations. And what I mean by cross-staffing is Station 211. There's 3 people assigned there per day, typically. That's probably about 80 to 90% of the time there's 3 people there. If a medic run comes in, they take the medic. If it's a fire run, they take the engine. But when that medic is gone, there is no fire protection for that area. So we're responding from Station 210 and bringing in more mutual aid. If the engine goes out, then there's no EMS in close proximity, so we either have to rely on Station 210 to backfill or another mutual aid company. We want to try to limit cross-staffing, so if the engine goes out, we can still get the medic out the door. We put our priority on Station 210, and we try to up-staff there. And we have times where, just the other day, we had 10 people on duty, so we were able to staff both stations. Not adequate, but we're heading in the right direction, but that's not every day that we can do that. Typically, we're cross-staffing at both stations.
I guess my question to you is similar to what you're saying, Andrea, and you are saying we need to see what our needs are and work backwards.
Yeah, and we've done that. We got some initial projections from Mr. Caldwell, and we'll get our final projections, but we wanted to see where the numbers come in and whatnot. We know the renewal, we're never going to get ahead. In fact, we're actually going to go backwards with the renewal because the cost, all costs are increasing. We've seen that. So we will never get ahead if we're renewed. So we have to look at alternatives, as many as possible. I don't know what that alternative looks like, and we were waiting on the numbers today, but we can kick the can down the road, but we can only kick it so far. And that's what we're up against. We got an issue in 1991-92 where we had 12.3 mils, I believe, and there was not a new levy until 2011. There was a big gap, and then those levies have not been serviced. They've just been renewed until we got to 2.9 in 2021. So
After a failed attempt.
after 3,
You know,
it was the third attempt at passing.
There's no hurt like losing a levy. It'd be nice to get it right the first time, get the public on board, and
And the other thing
succeed.
we're facing is the rollbacks. we have 18.1 voted mills and we're collected at a rate of 6.6 or 6.7. So it's, inflation is, continuing to go up, but our revenue is not keeping pace.
Any more questions for the chief?
I have some questions, but I'm going to compile them and come back to you offline.
Okay. Works.
Yeah.
Do we want to schedule another meeting?
Yeah, so our choices would be, we could choose to like just continue this one, or we could just at a future date schedule one.
We
Could
end
we
it.
do the second meeting in February? Could we do a 6 o'clock? Does anyone know if that'd work on their schedule?
That worked for me. What, the second meeting?
The second meeting in
Let's do the
February?
second meeting in February at 6 PM.
Is that that's the 18th? Correct. 18th works good for me.
Brandon? Yeah, Brandon. Okay, good. So what I'd like to move that we continue this meeting until, you said February 16th? To
February 18th.
February 18th, 2025 at 6 PM here at the Township Hall.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes. Meeting continued. That was what you said. Barry, you were past chairperson. Would you say meeting continued or just leave it at that?
We voted to continue, yes. And then we can end, we hit the gavel so we can end the next.
Thanks, Chief.
We'll take
Thank you.
5 minutes.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.